Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Colleen and I'm pleased that you've stopped in here today. Today I'm going to try and demystify the cheddar broccoli soup. It's a wonderful soup that we make from time to time, and today seems like the perfect day to do it. My husband Gino is outside. He's snowblowing in the driveway, and I thought that when he came in we would be able to have a bowl of hot soup and for him to be able to warm up. So I'll get everything rounded up and I'll be right back after this. So I'm going to start off this wonderful cheddar broccoli soup with about half, maybe a little more than half of a smallish medium onion. And I'm just going to dice it up. I'm not going to get too carried away with it, but I don't want any of the chunks to be really large in this soup. So I'm going to do it pretty fine. And I hope everybody's week is started off well and that you're all healthy, which right now seems to be the biggest concern. It's hard on a normal year to get through winter without catching some sort of flu. But this one is extraordinary, I think. So in this big pot, I have a tablespoon of butter, and I'm going to put it onto the stove and melt it, and then I'm going to add these onions, and I'm going to sweat them until they're just translucent. So I've got the onions in the pot, and now I'm just going to work on the other vegetables. I need about a half a cup of thinly sliced celery. And I happen to have a heart that I'm trying to use up, so I'm going to work on that. And it may turn out to be a little more, but that's okay. There we go. And I need 2 cups of broccoli florets, so I am just really going to work off the stem. Take all the broccoli off the stem. And set the stems aside because they can be used in all different kinds of soup as well. I don't want to mince these really fine, but I also don't want there to be great big chunks of broccoli. So if I'm getting close, I don't mind breaking up a little clump a little bit to make them smaller. And into the measuring cup they go. It doesn't have to be, honestly, it doesn't have to be right on the 2 cup mark either. This is a very forgiving recipe. I hope everybody's New Year's started off well. We have had some crazy weather in our province this year, and we are holding our breath because now it's early in February, and February is usually the month that we get the cold weather, but wouldn't you know, today it's supposed to get up to 0 Celsius, so 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Eek. That means that the country that we live in, the snow up on the mountains can get quite unstable when there's big fluctuations in the temperature, and we have to worry then about avalanches. Not in our home where we live, but on the roads that surround us. And we are in a prime location for snowmobiling, and that is a dangerous sport at this time of the year when the weather changes so rapidly from one temperature to another, and it loosens the different layers of snow. Some of the snow that we get here is, they call it champagne powder, because it's very, very light, and then we'll get rain snow that is very moist, and it packs into layers, and each one different. So any kind of noise or movement can cause the layers to slide one off of the other, and that's when we have to worry about avalanches. I think I've just about got enough in this cup. I kind of squished it in there too. So I'm just going to stir my onions. Yeah, they're coming along nicely. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to pare a couple of carrots, because I need about a cup of grated carrot. So I'll start off with these 3. And I'm trying to do this in as real time as I can for you, so that you can see that it's not something that takes a great deal of time. And trying to do it in a way that I hope doesn't frighten you from trying it. Now, if you had fresh carrots out of the garden and you were just washing them, you may not even want to remove any of the skin. So, there. Just about done those parts. Time to stir the onions again. Yeah, and I've just moved them off the heat for a minute while I finish this part, so that I can kind of do it in the same vein. Boy, I'm making a mess though. And I'm just going to grate these. Now, you could cut these up into matchsticks or coins, or however you would like. I just find they cook quicker in the soup this way, but if you like them to be coins or matchsticks for presentation or whatever, then by all means. I just feel like if it's broccoli, cheddar soup, that whatever kind of soup it is, that should be in the forefront. So I leave the broccoli florets a little bigger, and that way there's no mistaking what kind of soup it is. Does that make sense? Not that it changes the taste one little bit even, so don't let that change your mind about it. And that's enough. As I said, I've got a mess going on here. And just picking up a cup. And yes, I definitely have a cup. Now, I'm going to give my hands a quick wash, and then we're going to move over to the stove. Now, I started this off in a big pot, but you could really start the onions off in a frying pan and then transfer to the big pot. But I want to do less dishes if possible, so I start with the big pot. Now, I need something to thicken my soup, so I'm going to just pour in here 1/4 cup of flour, just plain white flour, and I am going to scrub this around. Now, I'm also going to add to this mixture 1/4 cup of butter, because I just feel that it's a bit dry and I don't want it to be dry. And let's face it, flavor comes from butter. I'm just going to get a spoon to clean that out. Oh, that's much better, I think. Get that butter melting. I'm going to scrape those bits off the bottom. And just keep moving that mixture around for a couple of minutes, just to cook the flour taste out of it. Now I think that's a mistake that maybe inexperienced cooks make, is that they don't give the flour enough time to cook out. I think that's pretty good right there. I've got most of the bits off the bottom because of course there's flavor in those bits. And to this I'm going to add some chicken stock. And I'm going to do this a little bit at a time, stirring in between. And I know that I have about 2 cups of stock left in this container. And as you can see, it gets thick almost right away. And I'll add some more. And I just stir in between each batch until I get it, or each time I pour it in, just to get it smoother. There's nothing worse than big fat lumps in there. Well, that's not true. I'm sure there's lots worse things than that, but it's not what I want. And just keep stirring. This is probably the hardest part of this whole thing, is just getting this just right. Now, there we go. Now, feeling that that's pretty good. And I am going to let that come up to a little bit of a bubble. And I will grab the veggies to put in. Now, I'm going to pour in the veggies. So in here, I have 1 cup of shredded carrot and 1/2 cup of celery. And 2 cups of broccoli florets. I'm going to stir these in. It looks really thick at this point, doesn't it? Well, I'm going to put the milk in next. So I'm going to add 2 cups of milk. And I'm just using 2% milk here, but you could use whole milk if you like. You could even use some heavy cream and some milk, but it could get rich pretty fast because we haven't added the cheese yet, so we still have to do that. So now I'm going to let this bubble away on the stove just at a gentle simmer once I reach the simmer, and then I will be ready to add the cheese. I'm gonna just taste it and make sure that I've got my salt and pepper correct, and I will see you when it's time for the cheese. I wanted to just hop back on here and remind you that there is flour in this dish. So it is important to, you know, keep an eye on it and keep stirring it once in a while, because the flour will tend to stick to the bottom of the pot and then it will scorch and your soup will taste horrible. Now you only need to cook this long enough for the veg to be tender. I generally let it simmer about 20 minutes once it's started to simmer. It just helps, I think, to develop the flavors more when the broccoli has a chance and the carrots to release their juices into the mixture. And you can see it's already quite creamy. I may afterwards have to add a little more milk once the cheese is in, but we'll have a look at that time. So I'm going to turn it down a little and just keep an eye on it. Here we are at the very last step. I'm going to turn off the stove now, and I'm going to put in 2 cups of aged cheddar cheese. And I'm going to just stir it until it all combines. And you really don't need the heat on for this step, because it will just melt into the mixture Now, if you don't like aged cheese, you could definitely go with something a little bit lighter. But if it's going to be cheddar broccoli soup, then cheddar and broccoli should be what's coming through. Okay, I think it's ready to serve. So I'll take you back over and show you what a bowl is when it's all finished up. So here we are back at the counter. I've got my big pot here, and I'm just going to ladle some of this soup into the bowl. Wow, that looks great. Smells great. Tastes great. I hope this helps you be confident enough to try soup on your own. I'm going to just add a little bit of really crisp bacon to the top to finish it off. And that's what's for lunch today at our house. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and that if you have, you will give it a like, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, folks, stay well, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.